all the time. I don't even need to talk about anything else. I can just talk Enneagram, no joke. Ever since I learned about it, I've been studying it now for about 3 or 4 years, and I'm not an expert in this, okay? I'm not certified, any of that stuff, okay? But still, listen to me, because I do feel like I know what I'm talking about for sure. I've read many, many books on this. I got interested through my church, actually, who they started talking about it. I'm like, what is this? And in our leadership classes. And so then I'm like, okay, let's look into this. And what it does is kind of, for those of you, well, how many of you are familiar, like feel like they know Enneagram pretty well? I know Christina's in there. Anyone else? Awesome. Okay, so lots of people learning here today. So basically, you know, it's the things that you don't know about yourself that can hurt you, kind of thing. And it names for you basically your weakest point, but at the same time, it teaches you how to overcome that weakness. All right. And so we don't know ourselves based on what we get right, but we do know ourselves based on more of what we get wrong. And so that's kind of usually the easiest way to figure out what number you are. I'm going to be reading through some of the notes that I do have. But again, if you guys have questions, this can be interactive and all that. I have no problem with that. But just know that the best part of you and the worst part of you is the worst part of you also. So when that comes to Enneagram, you're going to make sure that you don't want to get rid of the worst part of you, but becoming aware of it is what will help you. And so as you learn what I like to call the rumble strips on your personality, you'll start to know when you're starting to veer off the highway and get those rumble strips. It's like, okay, I'm starting to get more of an unhealthier version of myself right now. I need to kind of go back and recenter and figure out what's going on so that I can, move past this. But basically, what is the Enneagram? All right. It's Enneagram, just Ennea means 9 in Greek, and gram is just a drawing. And so I actually want to screen share a picture of, let me see where it is. Of course, I had it up and now it's not. There it is. All righty. Basically, it's a picture of the 9 points. If you guys seen it, some people are a little more nervous thinking that, it looks kind of funny. Oh my gosh, I can't find it, of course. Show all windows. What is going on here? There it is. All right. See this picture? You guys see it?
Yep.
All right. It might look kind of freaky. Okay. I'm a Christian. I first saw this and thought, what the heck am I getting into? But when I did look at it, because, it does look kind of weird. However, what it does is it tells you, once you figure out your number, and we're going to get into that, of course, but you're connected to other numbers. All right. So you are one main number, but then you go to a number in severe stress. You go to a completely different number in security. And then you also can have numbers, or you can have similarities to the numbers that are next to you that are called wings. So it sounds really complicated because there's a lot to learn. So if you want to take a screenshot of that picture to kind of see what we're talking about, you could do that. I'm not going to keep that up the whole time. But I definitely want to obviously address the basics of this, get you to know each number a little bit more, hopefully to understand yourself a little bit. So then later you can understand more of the people in your life. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. So Enneagram, again, it's just 9 different personality styles. I like to call it personality wisdom, because the more you know, it's kind of like a tool, and, no models, all models are wrong, but they can be useful, so this is a tool that you can use that'll help you to, have more grace or have compassion or have just an understanding more that there are 9 different ways that people will react to the world, main ways, okay, based on what they're motivated by. So when you think you're right about something, there's 8 other ways completely, more than that, but different ways that people are going to respond to you. And so you want to obviously make sure to understand the other styles. Like I had everyone in my family take what I call it my test. It's that question sheet that I actually sent you guys. That is from the book, The Road Back to You. Okay, if you do not have this book, I highly recommend Ian Cron's book. I took the questions right out of here, totally out of here. And you can go through them and answer yes or no. So you can start with 1 and just go through the questions. And for my number, for number 8, I was 16 out of the 20. So you're not going to identify with every statement on there, but you will have pages that you circle so many more than others. And so that'll help you to obviously understand, maybe that could be your number. And it does take a little bit more experience with it to learn if that is for your number for sure. But basically it gives words to describe what it's like to live in your skin. All right. How it's different than other personality tests is that it helps you to see the lens that the world sees through. So if you really don't understand where somebody's coming from, it literally goes through what they're motivated by and has to do with their number. And this isn't something that's new, that's just come up. This has been around. This is ancient, you guys. This has been around for a really, really long time. It just started getting more popular, really, I'd say in the last like 10, 15 years. Has anyone on here never even heard of it before? Okay, all right, so, okay, well, there you go. There's many different factors though that actually make up each different person in the types. So like Pete and I are both 8s, okay? So we're gonna be more motivated by the same things. However, we could be very different based on how we were raised, or, you know, just the environments that we've been in or put ourselves in, or our childhood, or just my parents were divorced. So that gave me a whole different experience. So every number is completely different. So if let's say you're a 6 and you know somebody else who's a 6 and you're like, she's a 6, well, I don't want to be a 6 anymore. You know, so it's not like that. Everyone is different in their number. It's just, again, what motivates them to do the things they do. Okay. So then how do you determine your type? I think the questions are one of the best ways, because the tests, so many of them are wrong. And I hated that when it got me wrong, because I knew what I was. And so the only one that I would suggest, it costs like $12. It's the Enneagram Institute. Go to the enneagraminstitute.com, and it's a $12 test, I believe. And it's like 144 questions. And you answer them, obviously, as truthfully as you can. However, you can't stop taking the test. I got through like 50 of them, and then my kids distracted me. And when I went back in, it was gone. I had to start over again. So really put aside the time to just put in this to know, but go with your feeling, you know, like your gut, and just answer the questions that you know, the way you think you would. Now, one other thing that this talks about is life changes us as we get older. And so one of the best ways to kind of figure out who you are is to think back into your 20s. All right. Some of you, that's longer than others. However, some of us, you know, we can feel like we were just there and we're not scarred by the world, you know, and we can just learn more based on how you would have reacted then, and answer those questions, those 20 questions on there, kind of with that mindset if you're having some trouble figuring out your number. Okay? So there are so many different facets of the Enneagram, so I don't want to get too confusing on everybody, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about this at the end if I have time, but it's kind of grouped in triads. So there's 3 of the 9 that are more gut-centered, you know, work from the gut. You've got 3 of them that are more head-centered, and then 3 of them that are heart-centered, all right? And so that's kind of how they receive the world first, and then they respond from that. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. Remind me if I forget. Okay, Susan Stabile, she is a Stabile. I've heard it said both ways. I've heard her say it both ways. Weird. But anyway, she basically is a huge Enneagram expert. She teaches on it all the time, has done hundreds and hundreds of seminars. She says that a minimum class for Enneagram should be 8 hours long. Okay, that is like her thing, because it is so complex, and it can be. And so if you want to get the basics out of it, that's what we're going to go through today. And then we're going to have another session in April that will go into a little bit more detail. And I'd love for some feedback too at the end, or even throughout the next month, to figure out what you want me to kind of focus and concentrate in on that one. That will be at the end of April. But Suzanne talks about how, like, she deals with people who have PTSD. I think she's a counselor. She was. And the wife would say, my husband came back from Afghanistan and he's a completely different person. I don't even recognize him. And what happens is the Enneagram teaches us that in stress, in extreme stress, we go to a completely different number. So her big thing is that you are genetically born the way you are. So the number that you are to your core, what you're motivated by, does not change. Okay? Does not change. I don't care who you talk to about Enneagram, all the reading and understanding I know, it doesn't change. However, you can start acting different ways based on your health, the state of your mind, you know? Okay. So you're basically connected, like I said, to 4 numbers. You are one number. You're going to hear me maybe talk about wings, which is the number next to you. So I'm an 8. So I either wing 7 or I wing 9, right? Christina is a 6. She wings to 5 or she wings to 7, right? If you're a 9, you go back around again. So you wing to 1 or you wing to 8, okay? So that's the wings. And then, like I said, then you have the other 2 numbers that you go to in stress and then also in security. So the way that this works, I'm going to pull up my notes on the computer now so I don't have to look down. But the way that this works is you want to make sure that you understand that it's based on what you're motivated by, okay? So we're going to start with number 8. All right. That's what they always say to start with. If you start with a 7, they won't stick around long enough to pay attention to get to the other, or to learn the other numbers. And if you don't start with an 8, then they won't stick around because they want you to talk about them first. So you start with 8 and you kind of go from there. Okay. Healthy 8s are great friends. They're exceptional leaders. They're champions for those who cannot fight on their own behalf. They're high voltage people. They want to be where the action and the energy is, right? 8 wing 7, which is actually what I am, is the highest energy of all the Enneagrams. I don't drink coffee. I don't have caffeine. This is just natural, like I am plugged in, okay? I get like 6 hours of sleep. It's all I need. Okay, so they get their energy from conflict. This is what I love about the difference between 8s. And you guys, this is what changed my life, to know that there were other people out there like me, all right? For 8s, conflict is connection. So who do you know in your life who likes to push your buttons, who likes to test you a little bit, to see if you can handle the conflict, okay? But 8s love conflict, and they want you to challenge them right back. They want to be told the truth. So let's say I'm saying to you, and I just go, okay, you know what? Or you say, oh, my favorite movie, I just thought it was so good. I'm an 8 coming to you, and I go, oh my gosh, that movie was awful. Okay, that's something an 8 would say, all right? And so then you respond back because you're going to challenge the 8 and say, are you kidding me? This person's going to get this award and they're going to get this, and they were fantastic, and this part of the movie was this. And I go, oh, well, maybe I should watch it again. Maybe I missed something, right? So I'm not insulting you. It's a statement. And so the people in your life, especially women get a bad rap for being 8s, all right? We're called many names, okay? Bossy, a lot of other names that come with being an 8. And it's also the most rare number. They say it's the hardest one to be as a female 8, all right? Lucky us, right? But anyways, it's because of that conflict part. But however, the leadership part of it, there's so many great things that come with it, but we do always want to be told the truth. So if you have 8s in your life, let's say, here's another example real quick. If I come to the hospital and my husband, not Diane's husband, the guy on here, if he's in the hospital and he got rushed in by ambulance and I come in and I say, how is he? Do not tell me he is fine. You are not God. You do not know that he is fine. As an 8, you want to be as direct as possible and just tell the truth. And you can say, it's really bad. They've got him on a ventilator. They've got him on all this other stuff. Sorry, Chris, I'm like taking you out here. But do you know what I'm saying? It's like being honest and telling the truth is what will go in, and we will believe you more. We will trust you more, and we will talk to you more. We will get closer friendships with people like that because we want the blatant honesty.
100%. Diane,
Yeah.
just to share real quick, your example on the hospital thing.
Mhm.
This time last year, my wife she almost died. She's wonderful. She's yay, hooray. Everything worked out perfect because she did not. She lived. But right at the hospital, I came in the next day after she was admitted in an emergency. We did not know that they had put a secret passcode for people to come visit on her entry. And I went there and they're like, we don't have this person. I quite nearly got arrested for storming the castle all on my own.
Yeah.
It was not going well until finally they got somebody from the nurses station up there to say, oh, no, yeah, she wants him up here like now. It was not good. But I did not, when they said my wife was not there, and that's where I left her that night before at 3 o'clock in the morning, things were going awry very quickly.
Yes, I'm sure you went to a very unhealthy part of your 8, but it gets things done, I tell you. It's fantastic. So, okay, well, great. And those are the kind of things. So just telling people the truth, because that's what we want to hear. All right. You're going to learn another part of this too, that changed my life. And I won't talk, whatever. I'm not going to keep going on about 8s, but we are doers first. We think about it second, and then we have to remind ourselves we have feelings. Okay. This is a big deal for all you touchy-feely people. Okay. It's not that we're trying to be rude. We speak in statements, and most people, and we're never talking personally, literally, they're never personal attacks. They're statements. And so if you are friends with an 8, I have a lot of people who come up to me, Christina included, help me on how to deal with this 8 in my life. And I just try to help them to understand this other side, that we do have a really tender side, you just kind of work a little bit harder to get there for sure. Okay, so moving on then. Obviously, trust is a huge issue for an 8. And we're motivated, 8s are motivated to hear and believe that they won't be betrayed or controlled. Okay. So I don't need to be in control of everything, but don't try to control me. Ask my husband. Okay. So like I said, don't have to control everything. And that's a big deal. We don't need to be in control of it. Some people really want to be in control of everything. So, okay. So that is an 8. Moving on to the 7. Okay. So no, not 7. Sorry. We're going to go to 9. Okay. The peacemakers. All right. Peacemakers are motivated to believe that their presence matters. A lot of books that you can read will talk about things that happened to us in our childhood that really kind of not made us unhealthy in our number, but made us kind of really start to become our number faster. So like 9s, a lot of times in their childhood, they were actually, they were maybe put down by their parents a little bit and just saying, you know what, your opinion doesn't matter, or you don't matter. Just know you're going to do it the way I said to, just listen to me. And they're the peacemakers. Okay. They hate conflict. All right. Healthy 9s are natural mediators. Okay. They see and value the perspective of other people and can harmonize irreconcilable points of view. All right. They need to avoid conflict at all cost. At all cost. They see themselves in all aspects of the Enneagram. So they can literally look at every single number and see a little bit of each one in themselves. So if you're having some trouble figuring out what you are, you might be a 9. And we can always talk about that later. They struggle with ambivalence and oftentimes with making a decision, but they have thoughts and ideas. Funny thing about 9s is they love to be heard. And sometimes they have extremely long sentences. Okay, if you're a 9, remember these are statements coming out of my mouth. Okay, statements, not feelings oriented. Okay, I don't speak with a feelings filter. So anyways, they have longer sentences and they just want to be heard. And so many people will cut 9s off. And then that gets them back to their fear of, you know what, I don't matter. They're just cutting me off and they won't even let me listen. And 9s can be one of the most stubborn personalities out of all the personalities also, which is interesting because they avoid conflict. So it's more of a passive, all right? 8s, 9s, and 1s are in this anger triad. Okay, so 8s will express it right away. You tick off an 8, you know it immediately. Hence, Peter at the hospital. Okay, 9s, if their first reaction is anger, however, they will internalize it more because they don't want to think about it, push it away. It's conflict. I can't, nope, just I want peace. I want tranquility. And they won't even think about it. Right. And when we get into 1s, they actually internalize it and turn it on themselves, the anger, and just kind of get more mad at themselves. But here we go. So, like I said, they see themselves in all parts of the Enneagram. They often struggle to make priorities, and distractions become something that they struggle with. They don't like being told what to do. No one really likes to be told what to do, but 9s really don't like to be told what to do. I forgot to mention this sin. There's a sin with each one too that might help you to figure out what yours is. 8 is excess. We always want, it says lust or excess. It's always wanting more passion, more everything. 9 sin is sloth. So laziness, right? It's more of a disconnect from passion and drive to live their life. So a lot of 9s, because they're not decision makers, they won't get things started, right? However, when they do, they're incredible. They'll go and they'll get things done. They're great in leadership. They're great people, great mediators and all that. They just might be slow getting out the gate. And so you can tell when you're getting more into an unhealthier version of yourself, if you find yourself feeling more lazy, if you're a 9 and you just don't want to do anything, you just want to sit around. Okay. All right. Then let's see here. They'll often turn to bogus forms of relaxation, which are cheap imitations for the peace that they long for. They can see the world from every point of view, and they drop their boundaries to fuse with a more assertive partner. So if you have a husband who is a 9, then you want to obviously make sure to let them be a little bit more assertive, listening to them, letting them lead your household, which might be more of a struggle for you depending on what your personality style is, because they are more passive aggressive behavior. All right, moving on to this. Now we're going to the 1s, right? The 1s are the perfectionists, or the informers is another one that you can say too. Healthy 1s are committed to a life of service and integrity. They strive to fix all that's broken in the world, but the work is never finished. They have high expectations of themselves and others. They're terrified of making a mistake. They get the job done, and they have an inner critic. So One of the hardest parts about being a one is they're constantly battling themselves. They're always telling themselves that they're doing things wrong, right? Like for non-feelings person, like this actually gets me feeling like almost sad, that they don't have the ability to love themselves as well. And so like my daughter's a one. So I work really hard to make sure that she is working. She's confident and she knows she's right. Holy cow. There's black and white with whites. They are wrong or they are right and you are wrong to them. And so it's very interesting because they've done the work and they just know when they're right. And their sin is anger, and it's more of a resentment. All right. There's a world of errors and they're bound to correct those errors. Why don't other people care as much as I do? Do I have to do everything myself? This isn't fair. Let's see. They really, like I said, just keep kind of high expectations of themselves. And if you want to know if somebody's a one, start loading their dishwasher. and then you will know if they wing towards 9 and don't want conflict, they might completely reorganize it later. However, you want to make sure that, like that's definitely a way to know. And one thing I've learned about ones, if you have people in your life who correct you a lot, okay, not one of my favorite things to have people correcting me all the time. However, what I realize is ones, it's not that they want you to feel bad or like you don't know what you're talking about or that they want to even be right. They're actually trying to make you better. So to hear my daughter criticize me a lot, that's the way I see it, I put it more through the filter now of she wants to make me better. And so then I can say to her, okay, honey, let's reword this because I want her to have friends later in life. This is the charge I have of training my daughter, or teaching her and raising her up. So anyways, so they're always going to keep a running list of things to do. They love to talk. They love to chat. They'll listen to you really, really well. It's just, again, it's black and white. There is no gray for a one. All right. So any questions yet about those three? How you guys doing? Okay, good. All right, wonderful. Good to see. Okay, so moving on to the twos. Oh, sorry, the ones, they're motivated to be right, to be correct, to just be seen as good, right? Like if there's a mistake, don't call them out in front of a group. Tell them later, okay? Because they'll just destroy themselves. You see what I mean? Because that inner critic that's constantly telling them they don't do things right, they're going to destroy themselves if there is a mistake, but it's rare. It happens, but it is rare. Okay, so moving on to the twos. The twos are the helpers, the givers. You usually know these people, all right? Their superpower is they can walk in a room and know exactly who is hurting and gravitate towards them and listen to what's going on and just make them feel seen and heard. And they're just the most remarkable people when it comes to all that feeling stuff because they feel first. That's their very first emotion. And so, again, they just know everyone who's hurting and they want to get in that space and really love on them. They're great at hospitality and they're great on loving people. Healthy twos are generous in their efforts to love well and to care for others. They're some of the most caring, kind, supportive, upbeat, and tenderhearted people on God's earth. First responders in a crisis and last to leave a dinner party if there are still dishes to wash. They need to be needed. All right. That's actually their motivation is to be wanted. And they believe that they know what's best and what others require. They're very attuned to other people's pain. One of the biggest problems with the two is they don't think about their own feelings, though. They're always so wrapped up in the relationships of others that they're not thinking about themselves. So one of my favorite things I ever listened to it's a podcast, and her name is Annie F. Downs, Annief, as in Frank, Downs. She does any summer is what she calls it. And I listened to podcasts go to 2019 if you can. 2020 is all about the pandemic and I didn't like it as much. But go to any summer 2019 and she does an interview with a man and a woman of each number and ask them questions. So you can learn more about ones, you can learn more about twos. And I remember one of them, I was learning about a two, and she was talking about how she loves to every once in a while go to a movie by herself because it actually allows her then to not have to think if everybody's having fun. Is everybody enjoying the movie? Does everyone have enough popcorn? Is there enough, is everyone having a good time? They're not even paying attention to the movie because they're so in tune with everyone's feelings and emotions that they aren't even thinking about themselves. And so she said she can go to a movie and actually watch the movie. And that blew my mind. I'm like, why would you waste your time doing that? Everyone is different motivations. Okay. And we're all gifted to deal with our strengths really well. Most people will not run into conflict, where Pete and I are like, it's not conflict. It's a little bump in the road. I'll fix it in 2 seconds, you know? And so it's the same thing with her. She wants all the feelings, relationship stuff. My mother-in-law is a 2. And oh my gosh, I love her to death. She is just the most incredible 2. Healthy 2 too, which is wonderful too. Okay. So then let's see here. Their sin is pride. 2's sin is pride. And so when she heard this, or anybody who's a 2 hears this, they don't want to hear this, okay? That others are more needy than they are, and that they know the best of what others need. So it's like, everyone else needs more than me. You know, I have to do everything for everybody else. And so they can go in that unhealthy version of their 2 if they're not being loved on, if they're not being loved on well enough and appreciated for what they give, right? So it's really important to appreciate your 2s for sure. They're the most sensitive to criticism. So this may be hard for to hear for a 2 if you're hearing these things. They're always thinking, how are you doing? Not how am I doing, or getting in touch with themselves, but how are you doing? Making sure that you're doing well. What do you need? What are you feeling? Because their self-worth depends on the response they receive from others. 2s always end up giving way too much power to other people. Many women, though, incorrectly type themselves in this category because much of what we do as wives and as moms is always thinking and as the helper. Okay, like Sally, I know you're a 3. You know, your wing being a 2, I'm sure you've got a 2 strong wing, strong 2 wing with that. And so that helper giver mom side too, I'm sure really comes out. But they're so in tune to others that they assume that other people can read their minds. Because did you know 2s are mind readers? They literally are. They can know what you are thinking, how you are acting. I mean, they just know. That's their superpower. So they think everybody else can too. So if you're married to a 2, they think you can read your mind, their mind, whatever, you know what I mean? So you have to explain to them, no, I can't read your mind. You need to tell me what you want or what's going on here, because I don't have that superpower like you, all right? Which is really important. So, okay, so that's the 2. Any questions, guys? Just jump in. Okay. Here's the 3, the 3s. We love our 3s. I have a lot of 3s in my life. They're motivated to be loved for who they are and not what they do. They're the performers, right? They're the ones that get things done, highly efficient, have lists for everything. They get things done faster than anyone else, right? I thought I was really effective and efficient till I met my husband. And then I felt lazy because he's a 3. It's amazing how much they can get done, all right? Healthy 3s love to set goals. They rise to challenges and solve problems. They often think you are what you do. They can cast an image of success and achievement to win admiration. They love to win, always achievement focused. Even if they don't have to be the best, you know, number 1 on the scoreboard that everyone sees, they have to be their own personal best. And so they could be competing just with themselves. But if you talk to any 3 and you know any 3 really, really well, they know they're amazing. They won't tell you that unless they really know you, but there is not a confidence problem in a 3. They definitely know how awesome they are. They are social chameleons. It's amazing to me. They can walk in a room and they know exactly who they need to be to win the room over and get everyone to love them. All right. So what's interesting about a 3 though, then is they have different pods of friends, possibly, you know, like home, work, church, you know, different groups, yet they might act like a different person in different groups. Like if they're with college buddies, they might be more fun, outgoing, you know, do whatever. And then with other people, they might be more business oriented. They don't want their groups to come together because then they don't know who they have to be. So think about that. So that's one of the problems of a 3 is they don't know who they are when they're alone. So they have to think about that, like, who am I? So they can really understand that more and be that person, you know, in most environments. And healthy 3s are really good at being the same person, you know, with little differences. But that's a really big thing about the chameleon of the 3. 3s do feelings more than they have feelings. Right? They are the same as 3s, 7s, and 8s are all the ones that do first, think second, and then remind ourselves we're supposed to have feelings. Okay. 3s actually, though, are in the heart triad. This is another more, you know, complicated thing. However, so they get the feelings. They actually process through feelings, but that doesn't allow them to be efficient. That doesn't allow them to get everything done and productive and be seen as the, you know, the top or whatever in their own mind. So they will push those feelings away as fast as they possibly can and just get them out of there. It's not conducive to what they're trying to accomplish. So they prefer shorter sentences, 2, along with 8s. All right, so then they want to have this image though that, often they can mask and postpone their feelings so it won't blow their I have it all together cover, right? I think of a swan as an animal for a 3, the beautiful swan on the top of the water, and you don't know what's going on with those legs under the water, okay? Their sin is deceit, more to themselves, again, not being the same person to themselves. They believe the false image of who they really are. Let's see here. Taking second place is being the first loser, 2 or 3. They grow up believing that the world values people for what they do rather than who they are. So they really want to hear that they matter because of who they are and not what they get done. 3s are revered in America. The smart, charismatic, ambitious, type A man or woman. There's a lot of celebrities and Michael Jordan, just different personalities that really just wanted to get to the top and be the best at what they were doing. Okay, questions on that?
So no, but if I could jump in really quick, just to kind of like attest to how accurate this is. So like, as I'm going through and you're circling yeses and nos and things like that, you're definitely going to find obviously that 1 is a lot of yeses if you're being honest with yourself. And just like a couple of things to share with you guys, I'm bed 3, like I can't even lie to myself about trying to be any other number. When she talks about like solving problems, sometimes to my detriment, sometimes people just want to talk to you, which is so foreign to me, because as soon as someone's talking to me, and if they're expressing, something that needs to be solved, obviously I can have a conversation with someone, but if it's like a problem, I'm immediately like, how can I go into solving that for them or helping them or whatever? So this becomes an issue. Like if I'm talking to Tim, my husband, and sometimes he just wants to vent. He doesn't want me to fix it. I immediately go into like fix mode. And so understanding each other or the people you're talking to, like you're saying, it's so important, because when I learned that about myself, like being the problem solver, which I learned through going through a strength finder exercise through work, Gallup's, I can recognize it and tone it back. It's hard to do though, because it's like a natural knack. And then when you talk about feelings, and how it's very hard to feel as a 3, I just went through like a really, really tough thing in my personal life, a passing of, she was basically my sister. She was my cousin, but she was like my baby sister. And it was, I've experienced death before, of course, but nothing like this. And it was hard on so many levels, but because of the immense amount of emotion that I felt, I couldn't like push it down. I had to feel it. I had to feel it for like a good 8 or 9 days straight. And it was really hard for me to do that, but I didn't have a choice. Right. But then I had to go to a place where like, I have to like distract myself so that I can feel like positive and like I can go again, because it really shut down my productivity, if you will, and like everything that makes me and gives me energy in the day. So it's really interesting how accurate this is. And I just wanted to share that from me, who is a 3, and there's like definite things about that are so true.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And especially with 2s, 3s, and 8s, if you don't want them to fix something, go to them and say, okay, I don't want you to fix this. And then I listen with a totally different filter. Yeah. Because if you say something to me, I'm like, this is already solved in my mind. Why is this bothering you so much? I'll take care of it with like a 2-second phone call, you know? And so we have to remind ourselves, okay, they want to get all this out. They're, and I will ask, did you want me to fix this or do you want me to just listen? Mm-hmm. Because I can't read your mind. So tell me. So yeah, so that's funny that you feel that same way too about that, the fixer part. And it's hard to shut off, but man, you want something fixed? Come to one of us. All right. All right, so let's move it on. Any other questions about the 3? Okay, moving on to the 4. Some people believe this is one of the fewest numbers on the Enneagram, like that are out there out in the world, is the 4. The 4s are the romantic. They are in the feelings triad. They internalize a lot of it, but they want to be seen and understood. Yet they're the most unique people out there. One of my really good friends is a 4. And it's really interesting. She's smiling one day when I was out with her and I'm like, how are you doing? And she goes, oh, I'm awful. I'm like looking at her face and I'm like, tell your face, dude. I can't even tell that you're awful, because they are always feeling everything. However, they just want to be seen and understood, and they want to be able to sit. They're the only number that's able to sit in melancholy. Sounds awful to me. However, it's what makes them them. They can sit in that melancholy. They can just be completely fine there. Some people will think fours are depressed, but actually they're just fine. They're in that melancholy. So healthy fours are deeply creative, emotionally honest and connected, and attuned to beauty. Fours feel something important is missing from their essential makeup. So they basically feel like they're missing the last puzzle piece of their puzzle, their whole life, like they're looking for it. And you know, us being fixers, I want to find that puzzle piece, and it's not there to be found. Okay. And so just listening and being that friend for a four it's very challenging, but they're incredible people, so artistic, so creative, and they just want to be very unique. They don't want to be like anybody else at all. They want to be special. They're the most complex type on the Enneagram. What you see is never what you get. There are always more things running beneath the surface that you don't know, hence the smile and that she was awful. They are in their feelings and they want supersized feelings, super dramatic people. They search for authenticity means, the search for authenticity means everything to fours. All right, it's very important to them. Envy is the deadly sin of the fours. Envy is different than jealousy. Envy is desiring a characteristic others possess, while jealousy occurs when you feel like something we already possess is at risk of being taken away from us. So when they are envious of us, it's just because they want something that you have. A song for fours would be the U2 song, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. Fours are attached to the avant-garde and offbeat in life. They spend a lot of time longingly looking back on their childhood, saying, if only, and what if. Fours find meaning best expressed through imagery, metaphors, stories, symbols that you can express feelings and truth and test the limits of language. All right, we have 6 of us in our friendship. It's our 3 couples, and my good friend Annie, who's the 4, she's in that group, of course, and she is so different than everybody else. And she, it's awesome getting to know all these different numbers and people, but it's just fun to watch her. She just kind of takes it all in, and we need those people in our life too, of course. So, all right, any questions about the 4s? There's also time orientations. That this is another kind of part of Enneagram, fun, but like 4s live in the past. So that whole what if, going back to their childhood, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. So the time orientation will also determine kind of how you view the world too. Okay, moving on to 5s. 5s, the investigator. They're motivated to perceive and understand everything, okay? They're the people who do research upon research upon research. For example, my dad is a 5, and so he knows, I swear, he knows daily the count of COVID deaths, okay? So he does a lot of research with all that stuff, knowing all that. He just wants to know it all, has a little bit of fear about it, but he knows all that stuff because he's the one that he could go on Jeopardy, but however, never, would admit that he knows enough to go on Jeopardy. They never feel like they know enough. Healthy 5s have a long view of things. Right? They manage an appropriate balance between participation and observation, engaging with others comfortably and demonstrating true neutrality. They're the only one on the Enneagram that has the neutrality part, like literally their emotions. I don't want to say flatline because that sounds dead, but that's kind of like how it is. It's just like their emotions, when they're excited and when they're upset, it's all right here. Okay. So like joking around, if you have to put your puppy down, you want to bring a 5 to put your puppy down. Okay. Because if you bring a 2, she's going to buy you a new puppy and get you a casserole, but if you brought a 5, they would actually be able to have that more neutrality to be able to handle your emotions and handle them well for you. All right. They experience the world as intrusive, overwhelming, and draining. Typically introverted and analytical 5s don't believe that they have enough inner resources or energies to meet the demands of life. 5s wake up every day with a certain amount of energy. They can't get more energy, and they can lose it depending on what they're doing. So if you are married to a 5 and you go out with your friends, you might realize that person, your husband or wife, whatever, might leave the room and go need to be away from all the people. Not that they're recharging, but they literally have no more energy left. They are totally expended. And so if you are married to a 5, take a separate car. Best thing you can do, all right? Because then everybody wins. 5s often become an expert in a field of study because they love knowledge. They're not ruled by their feelings. They'll just let them go. They'll just let the feelings go, okay? Their sin is avarice. It is the need to retain, clench, and protect what little they have rather than a desire to have more. It's also an excessive desire for acquiring knowledge, information, ideas, models, interesting facts, etc. They prefer to observe rather than to participate in it. They're actively watching and talking or taking in information and filing it basically for future use. They love privacy and they love to compartmentalize their lives. All right. Again, that gas tank of resources every day. They'll ask themselves, if you ask a 5, hey, do you want to go do this tomorrow night? They have to think about it because they have to think, well, what else do I have in my schedule tomorrow? Am I going to have enough energy to be, the best version of myself by that time of the day? And they might conserve their energy all day to be able to go do that event with you. Okay. This is a big deal for a 5. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. I don't need to talk about that. I have a song for every single one, but whatever. Okay. Moving on to number 6. 6's song is Lean on Me. Okay. 6 is the loyalist. They're motivated to be safe. Okay. All the 6s came out when the pandemic came out. Okay. And depending on how healthy they were, all right, they decided to say, I told you guys, if you would have used antibacterial wipes all this time, I've been telling you to do this. I don't know if we'd be in the situation we were in. And so they're usually right. They keep us in check. All right. Their healthy 6s are productive, logical thinkers who almost always organize their thoughts and actions around what would be most advantageous for the common good. They're all the questioners. They're worst case scenario thinkers. Okay. Most 6s know every ditch they could fall in. They know what they'll do if their car goes over the bridge and they have kids in the back seat. They have everything prepared in their car to be able to be prepared for all that stuff. So if you ever have a situation where you don't know what you're going to do, ask a 6 because she's literally already, or he has already seen it and knows how to solve the problem. Okay, they're always thinking worst case scenarios. And so they also might be the people that kind of challenge you a little bit in a different way than 8s. They challenge you more asking questions. Like if you come up with this great idea for your business, and then all of a sudden they come at you, well, what if this happens? What about this? And what about this? And you're just going, oh, what a Debbie Downer. No, she's the one that's keeping you in check, making you think about the things that you don't want to think about that will help you to be better. Okay. They value community. Once you've won a 6's trust, you've won it for life. All right. They don't trust their own thinking. They have an inner committee. So 1s have an inner critic that is constantly telling them what they're doing wrong. 6s have a committee. So it's really hard for them to make decisions. They waffle on decisions because they've got all these committee members in their head telling them what, here's different ideas. Well, what if this happens? You should do this. Oh no, if that happens, you could do this. Could you imagine? So they are used to dealing with that. And so it'd be interesting with Frank and Christina being a 6 and a 9, be interesting to see how decisions are made in your guys' house, because that's another topic for later, I'm sure. But because 9s don't like to make decisions.
I don't care,
so
whatever.
you have to go with the flow, right? You're the peacemaker. Do what you want, right, Christina?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes,
whatever
there
you
are.
want
He
here.
makes it easy because he can't make a decision, so I know I have to make a decision.
There you go. There you go.
But, I
And
mean,
then the battling, though, of
it's
did you
what
make the
it's
right
still a
decision?
whole happy wife, happy life. Yes, dear.
Smart man. Smart man. Okay, so then the sin of the 6 is fear. They have a deep-seated need to feel secure. What they actually feel is anxiety. All right, they have a sense of apprehension that arises in response to an unknown or potential threat that may never materialize. If you have 6s in your life who come to you, and I'll use an extreme example, but this is the best way that I've been taught to work with the 6. If somebody was to come, oh my gosh, a meteor is going to hit us, all right? Most people would be like, you're crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you're thinking that's not going to happen. Or, like, what if COVID, we never get better and we have to live in our homes the rest of our life? Okay. Worst case scenario thinkers. It's like, okay, well, who's going to be with you during this process? You literally want to walk them through their worst case scenario in their mind, because just brushing it off, that's not how you're going to have a good relationship with the 6. It's It's like, okay, well, if that does happen, if we're in our houses the rest of our life, how are we going to handle that? You know, who's going to be around you to support you? What kind of systems are you going to put in place to allow yourself to love your life, even if you're stuck at home? You know, it's literally asking questions to help them get through their worst case scenario instead of just dismissing them, because no one wants to be dismissed. They're reliable, warm, funny, and self-sacrificing people, super loyal to the core. There's a little bit of a complexity with the 6. There's counterphobic 6 and phobic 6s. It's just how they deal with authority. Some think authority is always right, and some thinks authority doesn't know what they're talking about. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but that's something else you can study at a later time. So any questions about the 6s? Or Christina, you want any comments on here, hon?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I can talk about that because when I first found out I was a 6, I literally cried because I was like, there's other people who have a brain like mine, which is amazing. I was like, they think like me. And it was, you know, that whole worst case scenario thing is just, yeah, I've got everything planned out. Going on a trip with me, there's never anything that we don't have. You know, you need a Band-Aid, got it. You know, you need you need sunscreen, got it. Even though we're going somewhere and it's going to rain the whole time, I've got it. And it's frustrating to go on trips with other people too when they haven't packed correctly. I'm like, what? You didn't pack for warm and cold? You didn't pack, you know, 6 pairs of shoes just in case you got a blister and the other one, you know what I mean? It's just kind of, it's just, I mean, I'm so used to the way I think that I don't understand sometimes how other people have not thought through everything. So yeah, I mean, and luckily for Frank, I do all his thinking, so he can just relax and not have any conflict ever.
You want entertainment? You want entertainment? Put 2 6s together. You got mother and daughter. Oh my God. You want to have a worry party.
The world is coming to an end. I'm
Yeah.
sure of it.
And my daughter is exactly like me, a 6-wing 5. And it's just, but it's nice to have somebody to talk about and they get what you're talking about. When you've already thought it through, and I talked to her and she's thought it through and thinks it just like me, I'm like, yes, we're right then.
That's what this allows us to do, though, is have more compassion and understanding. Like, they don't want to be seen as, you know, always being negative. They don't think they're being negative. They just think they're being more realistic and preparing you in case something goes wrong. You know, I've realized I don't have any connection to 6 on the Enneagram. Wings, nothing. Stress, security, nothing. However, I was raised in a house, well, with 4 of them have 6 connections. So I am literally worst case scenario prepared for everything without the anxiety. So like on cruise ships, I always get the balconies because if the ship goes down, I'll just jump out the window. All right, I don't have to think about it again now. It's just done. But I've been prepared by 6s to think worst case. But Christina, what's interesting is when you know your friends too, like I don't need to bring Band-Aids. I just got to make sure I have a friend who's a 6 there and she'll take care of me and she'll love it. She'll feel special, you know? And I think when we tell them that too, like you are really valuable to us, you know, and some people assume that you're just going to do it. You know, but, and don't appreciate you enough. I totally get that. That's with a lot of the numbers too. But yeah, you're definitely appreciated. You know that.
And in the trust issue that, I mean, that's like one of the biggest things, like it's just like, trust is hard for 6s because, you know, we're kind of being cautious. And then, but once we trust somebody, then, you know, that's, I don't know, it's forever, I guess.
Yes, it is. Yeah, literally. It is. Yeah, you will not lose the trust, which is great because that's an awesome thing about 6s too. And they say that it's the most common number are 6s. And so I even read a couple places that they believe that half the population are 6s. Okay, so think about that during the pandemic. They were all the ones on Facebook, I'm telling you right now. Okay, I couldn't believe it when I knew Enneagram and I saw Facebook at first. I'm going, oh my gosh. I'm like, there are so many that are coming out and just saying, this is what you need to do. And this is how you need to prepare. And and we need them again. And healthy 6s obviously are fantastic. So
I did not post anything on Facebook during that.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, you might be a healthier version of it too, because, you know, putting, you know, the world's coming to an end out there, you know, or, you know, really negative, you know, isn't exactly going to win your favor either. So, okay. All right, so then moving on to 7. This is the last one.
I don't know, did I miss it? But what is the sin on that one? I might have missed it.
Oh, I might not have said it. Their sin is fear.
Fear.
They are constantly anxious. constantly anxious.
Thank you.
Okay? They work and fight against that all the time.
When somebody has problems with anxiety, I'm like, I live that every day. It's just normal to have anxiety all the time.
I say we need those people in our life. You guys keep us from doing stupid stuff. So, all right. So then moving on to the 7, the last one then to talk about. Okay, healthy 7s are not only fun and adventurous, but they're also spiritually grounded, practical, and resilient. They are the enthusiasts, all right? 7s are the only number that when they take the test, they're happy with their number. Every other number is like, you feel like almost like someone's shown something private about your life that you just didn't want anybody to know when people know your number, all right? But 7s is like, heck yeah, I'm a 7, you know? They're motivated by, well, basically that their needs will be taken care of. They want to make sure that their needs are taken care of. They embody joy and boundless love for life, but they want to avoid pain, often at all costs. So 7s are huge silver lining people. They're the ones that if you tell them anything, they're going to silver lining your condition no matter what, because they don't want to deal with the pain of what you're going through. All right? You know those people. When you have something bad happen, they're like, oh, it's going to be okay. You know, focus on this and look into this. And you're just going, just be in my pain for just a second, you know, instead of making it about you. And that's the thing. And so as a 7, if you are a 7, you really want to make sure that you are, you know, aware of that just because it might feel a little painful, just dig into it a little bit, because you're going to be helping other people, you know, with their situation better for sure. Their 7s are actually very vulnerable to addictions because they love the spice of life and new things. They love the buffet of life. They love trying new things. They're spontaneous. They're just fun. Just always like having fun. And since they're always avoiding pain, they want to avoid commitment. So if you have people in your life that avoid commitment, that might be definitely a 7 thing. They love flexibility. And again, they don't want to be tied down. They just live for the next adventure. 7 sin is gluttony. They need positive experiences. They love stimulating ideas. They just want stimulation all the time. 7s try to imagine a life where there is no Good Friday and it's Easter all the time. Okay, so no Good Friday and Easter all the time. 7s go out of their way to avoid introspection. They don't want to think about themselves. They're kind of like 2s in that way. They just don't want to think about themselves. They can talk their way out of anything. It's so cute. They can stick in a joke in a eulogy. All right. They just want to take the pain out of anything they possibly can. But not all 7s obviously become addicts. They just need to watch themselves and be aware of the fact that they constantly want more with that gluttony want. They can reframe things easy and it's unconscious. They don't even think about it. They love, like I said, they love buffets and they just want to get a little bit of everything just to try everything. And one of the songs I wrote on here was Don't Worry, Be Happy is a great song for 7s. So let's see. Then, okay, so that's going through all the numbers. Are there any questions about the numbers? Yeah, Ellen.
Can you be a combination?
Of 2 numbers?
Yeah.
No, you are 1 number and that is what you're motivated by. Like that is the number you're motivated by. I, like even Peter too, I would think, we wing so far to 7. Like I could almost think I was a 7. I avoid pain at all costs. I silver lining everything. I love life. I've just got a joy for trying new things all the time. Like I completely act like a 7. However, I know I'm an 8 because betrayal and all that stuff is my core. It's who I am. And so I do not want to be betrayed. I don't want to be controlled. So the thing I'm motivated most is what makes me my number. But then again, you can have a really, really strong wing.
Yeah, I would agree with that because there are elements of 7 that I go, oh, well, I dig that. I dig that. I dig that. But I'm 100% yes, all 1 through 20 on an 8. There's not a 0 no. There are 0 no's. It's 100% yeses.
Yeah. I'll have to see where my no's were, but yeah, it's pretty obvious. So that's one of the numbers you can definitely tell usually if somebody's an 8. And like I said, women usually get a really bad rap for it, where men are revered as CEOs for the same qualities.
Isn't that such a bummer?
It is such a bummer.
But it's funny because when I look at this, I definitely think like when I look at like a wing 2. So when you talk about your number, Pete, there's only 2 that I say I'm not on a 3. And it's like persuade Bill Gates to buy a Mac. I don't know how persuasive I am necessarily, but there's only 2, you know what I mean? So it's like a dead ringer. But then when you look at like 2s, there's a lot of them that I said yes to on 2 as well, like over 10 of them. So,
Wow.
it's very interesting how those, the wings, like you said, next to you, you can be a lot of those characteristics too. But like you said, at your core and the things that are so important to you, it's like absolutely yes or absolutely no, you know? So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Ellen.
Diane, is it 2 wings? Is it always 2 wings? Is it 1 wing? You talked about 7 and you're an 8. So maybe you're 7 and 9 a little?
Yeah, I'm 7. That's the thing is they say every bird, has 2 wings. A lot of people will say like for the first half of your life, you're really going to be strong in one, and then you'll start to gravitate towards building the other wing a little bit. But if you think about it, an 8-wing 9 loves conflict. 9 hates conflict, avoids conflict at all costs. So that's kind of, I call it bipolar, but you know what I mean? Like that's like the big difference. So you're not, people that are 8-wing 9 or 9-wing 8, really conflicting personality. Say things with 3s, 3 wings 4 and 4-wing 3s are conflict, like really conflicting in personality. So you'll have a little bit of that wing. Like, believe it or not, I love conflict because I love peace. So I don't see fire. I see the spark and it's out before it even catches. So people think, oh, you just love fighting. It's like, no, I'm not a rug person. Like 9s have rugs that are as high as their head with stuff they've shoved underneath it because they don't want to talk about it, And so you'll have people like that who like don't want to talk about things, but then you'll have other people that if we have an issue, I'm gonna hunt you down. We're gonna
You want to clarify it, right? You want to clarify it.
Yes.
So,
And
okay.
usually I'll take
Hold my
total
rug.
blame. Like, what did I do? How did I misunderstand this? Holy cow, how can I fix this? Because it is me. I just take blame for it. What were you saying, Frank?
I'm offended you made fun of my rug.
I'm sure it's a beautiful rug. I don't know how you
Yeah,
don't
but
trip
it's
on
been
it.
piled too
but you
high
be
because
you.
there's too much under it.
You be you, Frank, right?
Yep,
What was
I'll
that,
be me.
Can I say something? So
Yeah.
I think that for the Enneagram for couples, especially, or anybody with relationships, this is what attracted me to the Enneagram and learning about it and just digging is just to be able to understand the other person in your life, their personality. And especially like with me and Frank, it's helped so much because I understand why he forgets to tell me that he went to the store on the way home when he said he didn't. It's because he forgot because it didn't matter to him, but it mattered to me. So he knows, okay, you got to tell me the details, where he forgets the details because he's a 9 and it's not important. So, I mean, there's just little things that kind of helped us in our relationship because we understood their way of thinking. And it's been a huge help, even just like with everybody else in my family and learning their personalities. Like my son is an 8, and it caused me a lot of anxiety because 8s for some reason cause me the most anxiety. I absolutely love them, but it's just because the way I don't know what it is exactly, Diane, maybe you can help, but my son's an 8 and I'm like, that's one I was asking her about. How do I relate to my son? I don't get him. And helping the Enneagram to help me understand him. He's still an 8 and I still have anxiety when I'm around him, but at least I can kind of take his comments differently.
Well, if you think about it, you want to go through your committee and find out how to make a decision. Where 8s, we work from our gut and we have a decision immediately. And I will tell you, it's almost a superpower for us where I barely regret anything that I've ever said or done in my life because it's just an initial, okay, this is the way I'm going with it, And so if you think about that, if he's constantly making quick decisions or doing whatever, where you're probably like, you should think about this, being the mom, you should think about this more. And have you thought about this? And it's like, we don't care. We'll figure it out as if we go. We're firm in our decision and we'll be firm in fixing the problems if we messed up.
And Diane, I think I'm an 8, and which Diane helped me get to because I was having a personality crisis. But and I feel like she touched on this, but like as an 8, like when I say something, I feel like people are constantly offended by me, and I'm like, what was offensive about that? Like that was a black and white number. I don't know how you're so offended by that. That was a, like she said, like that was a statement, you know, and like I have an 8 in my life that is a much stronger 8 than even I am. And it took me a really long time to figure out how to deal with her because I would be constantly getting mad at her, you know? And I actually talked to her on my way home today, and I've gotten so good at saying, like, I called you to tell you how this went. I didn't call you to give me advice about it or fix it or tell me what I did wrong. You wanted to know how this went, so I'm telling you how it went. Now stop trying to give me more, you know? But like, I had to tell her, like, you come off so mean. And I'm an 8.
Yes.
And I was like, but she's so strong. And people are like, people get offended by what you say. I'm like, I don't know what is so offensive about that. I'm just sharing, you know?
Anyone who knows me knows I say things and I go, oh, fluff that up a little bit. That was probably really abrasive.
That's what I do. I'm like, okay, there
fluff it
wasn't a lot of stuff there, you know?
Yeah. But it makes people laugh too. It makes them realize that it wasn't on purpose. Because again, you guys, this kind of leads going into the triad thing. And Ellen, what's your question? But then I want to talk about
well, I want to say how much I love this. And the other thing I want to say is now I understand some of my friends, but does an 8 always kind of talk loud?
Oh, we're bold. Oh my gosh. We're always, our favorite words are boldness, challenge. We love a challenge. And then also justice. Okay. So like,
so the voice tone, voice tone.
Yes.
But it sounds like it's more of a firm voice than necessarily loud. Because I don't know, from what I've seen. Because like Pete, I don't think you have a loud voice, but you have a firm voice.
Yes, I've been told that. And there's, in fact, having gone through many things that are different than the Enneagram, I know that I tend to end on what is called the very parental or firm tone, which is the downward tone. In almost every sentence I ever have, it's just where my voice goes. And that's the firm, boom, this is the period, this is the end.
It's the mic drop. Yeah.
And it's almost, but, and to Holly, your point, I have been told repeatedly by my wife and my middle son, who they love to do the cut up, the and sling those sarcastic barbs and such. And when I give it back, apparently I do not comprehend the tonality necessary for sarcasm, because when I give back what they dish out, feelings just go rock bottom to the floor. So I've learned to be very careful if something that I think is going to be a sarcastic quip is curbed. If I'm engaging with them, or even other people who, especially if they don't know me well, I think, you know what, better not share that right now. These people don't know me that well, and it may come off like it comes off to Mary Catherine or Luke. And so I don't do sarcasm at home because feelings just go plummeting downward.
Keep in mind too that just because they're loud, because we all know Frank's loud, he is not an 8. So
yeah, I was gonna say I'm super loud. I can relate, Holly. I mean, and you just put in the chat, like, people know when you've arrived because they can hear you. That's so me, but in a different way. And I would say it's like there's like a confidence in a matter of factness in the way that you guys talk. Matter of factness is not even a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's like that mic drop. It's almost like it's hard to shut it down. If you know what you're talking about, it's very hard to argue with an 8 because it's just like, that's the way it is. So what else are you going to say about it? You know, unless you really know what you're talking about. So I don't think it's like so I don't look at it as like bossy or like being too aggressive. It's just like a confidence factor. Like,
and if you guys know, looking at the triads and stuff too, 3s, 7s, and 8s are all future oriented. So we're always like, it's going to be better later. It's going to be okay. You're going to feel better later. You know, you just got to get through right now. Always focus on the future. And then, gosh, hold on. 1, 2s, and 6s are in the present moment. 1, 2s, and 6s present. They're always like right here. All right. Don't always want to think about the future unless it's vacations, you know, kind of fun, but they're going to be more in the present. And then 4s, 5s, and 9s are in the past. They're going to constantly keep going back to what happened to them before, or this could repeat itself, or going more into the past for sure. And something else I was going to say, I forgot now, but you guys were talking earlier. Oh, Jerry, I wanted to address that. The comment Jerry made. I wanted you to look at 8 just because you're direct with me, but that's also really, you have a lot of 1 characteristics. So when you said 1, I was like, okay, well, there you go. So Jerry says she's a 1. And that's like I'm 8, 7, and 1. We're all really high on this test. It was telling me like the characteristics I have of each number. So they're all kind of, there's numbers you're going to get confused with. Like 2s and 9s get confused a lot. 3s and 7s and 8s, they can get confused a lot, but there's a lot of them. So yeah, and then Mary, have you figured out what you are?
She's mute.
She's muted. Yeah. I hope does everyone feel like they know what they are?
Yeah, I'm a 7.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Fun.
Well,
Okay.
Diane,
Yes.
this is Nicole. I'm a 1, which is funny because I do not consider myself a perfectionist at all. When you said that's the title of it, I was like, there's no way.
Yep. You almost know you're a 1 when you're offended that it's called perfectionist.
I love that.
Well, then that's me.
I love what you said about 7s. Tim was going to sit in, but then something about taxes, and apparently getting our taxes is more important than this. So but I wanted him to sit in because obviously we're a couple, we do life together, we do business together. It would just be interesting. But when you started going through it, I would pinpoint him as I think it was a 7, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, yeah. 7s
yeah,
would
I
want to
think
avoid
he's-
coming to this because then they have to learn more about themselves and change. Why would they
Yeah.
want to come to this?
Exactly.
I do think he's a 7. And when you said 7s, when they find out they're 7s, they're like so happy about that. And when everybody else finds out what they are, they're like, oh God, I hope people don't see. Yeah, so true.
Exactly.
But
So
I'm also a 1 as well. So
you got to figure out if you're motivated more by just that if you'd rather be right, like things are correct, or if you're more of a did you say you were what number? You said you're a 7. 7s go to 1. Hold on, where's my chart? I made this chart from like 4 books I read, but 7s go
I'm
to
like-
1 in
I'm
high
mainly
stress.
a 7, but then I have 10 or 11 numbers of each of 6, 2, and 1. So I don't know. I think I need to pay that $12 and figure it out.
It's interesting to read because it definitely goes. But there's other things online too, like looking at resources. There's a person, Beth McCord. She is yourenneagramcoach.com. And she wrote, there's a book for each number. They're like 12, 15 bucks on Amazon, but it's on each number and it goes through your core fears, desires, and everything all in here. And she also, I did a test on her website on yourenneagramcoach.com on my husband and my personality. It's called Becoming Us. And so then I have the type 3 and the type 8 personality. It's like a whole printout of how to deal with different miscommunications and the things you're going to be miscommunicating about, childhood messages of both of them, suggestions for growth, how to become, better version of us together. So this was a really great report that I had printed out. The main book, like I said, for resources, The Road Back to You by Ian Cron and Susan Stabile. Then Susan Stabile also wrote The Path Between Us. This book talks about what it's like to be in a relationship with another number. So each one goes through each number and it talks about how if you, at the end of every chapter, after it talks about each number, it'll say like relationships 4 5s. And it tells you after all is said and done, you can do this, but you can't do this. And you'll need to accept this about yourself. Relationships with 5s. If you have a 5 that you're married to or a family member, you go through and it literally tells you how to be clear with them about certain things and how to address their number. It's like a Cliff Notes guide of your spouse. It's wonderful. So that's called The Path Between Us by Suzanne Stabile. And then this one is the other one. So The Enneagram Made Easy, Renee Barron. This one talks about childhood. It's kind of like a comic book, but it talks about childhood things that have happened to us that could have scarred us and how to be a good parent of a child that is a certain number. So it tells you how to parent them a little bit better too, to help them. Like my daughter, constantly telling her, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing's perfect this side of heaven. It's like saying different things that help to speak to them so that you don't have to pay for as much therapy later in life.
Right.
Essentially. So then those are the questions.
Therapy's okay.
Jerry
That is true.
doesn't-
That's funny, Jerry. Tracy, were you saying something, hon?
Yeah, I was just saying Jerry didn't like that comment.
We got quite a few 8s on here. That's
Yeah,
right. That's nice.
I was just saying, so
Hold on one second. Tracy's saying something. What was that, Tracy?
John, whatever he is, he's totally a 7. And I constantly tell him, like, we don't live in a Disney movie. Like, stop it. We don't live in a Disney movie, because he's always trying to be like, but you know, this is so great and this is that. And why can't you just be happy? And I'm like, damn it, why can't you be sad? Like, why can't you be angry? What is wrong with you? So it's really funny to sit and listen to this even more. And I'm going to totally get that book to kind of figure out how we can meld a little bit better.
Yeah, it helps you to understand people and just be a better friend, a better everything. Okay, and you'll gravitate towards certain numbers. Like when Christina says it's really hard to be around 8s, a harder number for me to be around are actually 9s, because I never know if they're telling me the truth. I don't know if they're trying to, be the peacekeeper, or whatnot. And so you really do have to dive into good relationships with them, so you can really feel like you know them a little bit better, to feel trust, so that you can trust them. But each number gravitates towards certain numbers. Yeah, Christina.
It's funny though, because when you start to learn all the people in your life and their personalities, and by the way, other than me and my daughter, I know no other 6s. So as many as there are in the world, I don't know any. So, but anyway, it's funny when you find out what a personality is, or you think, I bet I know what their personality is, just because of the way you feel about them. And maybe that's just because it's me, and maybe I feel it different, but it's like, I absolutely love 3s. They're one of my favorite Enneagram number, and I just love to have a conversation, be around them, everything. And then, like, even though I struggle with 8s, I love them, but then 4s are probably the most difficult for me, just because there's just so many different things. But it's just having the patience for a 4, and their emotions and their feelings and their thoughts. So
Yeah. I totally hear you on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
hold on one second. I know it's 12:59. I think I covered.
You want us to remind you, I know we're at a time, so if we can do this next time to, you said gut, head, and heart.
Yeah, just real quick on that, you guys. Okay, so 8, 9s, and 1s are in the gut triad, which is the anger triad. Like I said earlier, 8s, you'll hear it immediately. The anger comes out immediately. The 9s in the gut triad, they will repress it because they want to forget about it. That's not peace, so forget it. They're going to, push that anger away. The 1s have the anger, but they put it on themselves. Okay, so then 2, 3s, and 4s are in the heart triad. So they deal with more grief and shame. All right, and guilt is in there too. So 2s, with their feelings, they outwardly pursue them right away. Others people's feelings, not their own. All right, but they're very feelings oriented. Feelings come out right away. The 3s, feelings make them feel less efficient. So they're going to, even though they think with feelings first, they will push them away as quickly as they possibly can. Ignore them and just set them aside because they're not important. And then 4s, the feelings are drawn inward, and they'll just sit in that for a while and just think about those feelings and think more about those feelings and keep thinking about those feelings. I don't understand how they do that, but that's why we're all built to be who we are, right? The 5s, 6s, and 7s, they're in the head triad. And then that's the fear and anxiety triad. Okay. The 5s externalize the fear. They'll tell you, okay, this is the problem. Okay. 6s will internalize it and try to figure out, how am I going to deal with this fear? Let the committee do their work, And then 7s will avoid the fear altogether because they don't want to think about it, because that's not fun and that's painful. So they're just going to push away the fear. Okay. So the time orientation and the head, heart, gut triad thing all go together. So when I said 1s, 2s, and 6s are present, and then, the time orientation, 3s, 7s, and 8s. And that's the other thing, Christina, too. If you don't know a lot of 6s in the chamber, I would think you'd find a lot of 3s, 7s, and 8s for sure. Okay. Thinking for future oriented for their businesses and stuff. You're going to have all the numbers, of course, but I don't know if a lot of 6s would join. So you're very brave, There you go. All right. So we are at 102. So what do we do? Pete, do we just have to go?
Oh, you don't. In fact, as a matter of fact, I kind of figured this might be a topic of great interest. So if you guys want to continue talking for a bit, I have no problem with that. I don't have to really shut this down until about 1:30. If you really want to keep talking, you're more than welcome. With regard to that, on this thing, I'm fairly certain I'm married to a 1. And I will tell you, you made me laugh about the dishwasher thing, because I'm not allowed to load the dishwasher. I'm not allowed to use our washing machine. And I am allowed to fold laundry after I was trained on certain ways things must be folded. But I generally take care of my own stuff. I do my own ironing because apparently I don't iron other things correctly. But I figure if there's no wrinkles, job
Then you did it right. Yeah. Here's a little word of advice. If you want your wife to take the test, give her the questions. Do not tell, if she says to you, what do you think I am? She's like, you know what, hon, I'm not supposed to guess. Just take these questions and find out, because I will tell you right now, if you tell your wife what she is, and then she is that, might not go real well. Okay.
Probably wouldn't. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So anyways, so there you go. Okay. All right. So Pete, everybody do their thing. Thank you guys so much for being out and doing this. Obviously, anytime you want to talk Enneagram, I'll go to lunch anytime, in person or on Zoom, and talk Enneagram anytime, for sure.
Ellen wants to know when the next one is, which is the 28th of April at 11:45.
Right. The next time, can you talk a little bit about, should we be figuring out the numbers of the people that we deal with professionally in business? And does that help? I'm just taking a step back because I don't want to tell you what to do, but I think that I would get a lot out of that.
I don't care if you tell me what to do. If I do it or not, it's up to me. But, me. But no, because I want to get ideas of what we should talk about in April. And I do want to bring it more into a networking thing. The trouble with it is it's hard to get people. It's like, hey, can you take this test? Like my team that I work with, I said, I want to be a better mentor to you. So go ahead and look at these questions and figure out what number you think you are. And that was really helpful for me to know. So if you're working and you're the boss, then I would say definitely family members, anyone you deal with regularly, I would definitely say try to figure that out for sure. Yeah. Okay. Frank, you survived.
Of course.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So much you'd be mad at me.
So can I be really vulnerable and say something?
Sure.
Frank and I had a meeting last night about some stuff. Knowing what his number is now and knowing what mine is, Frank, I love you. We got to a point where he was explaining something and I was like, oh my God, I understand. Please stop talking. Like, I don't remember which part it was, but I literally wrote on number 9, longer sentences. And it was like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I understand. I don't know why we're still talking about this. Can we please move on? Like, so I say that with love.
Interrupt.
Yes. And that will happen.
Dave was listening, and Dave is not an 8, and it was really more about Dave. So I was like, deep breath, Holly, like.
Yeah. And people will learn that too. They'll learn that when you talk to a 3, a 7, or an 8, you need shorter sentences. Like if you want them to stay present, like especially 7s, holy cow, don't have a long conversation with them because you've lost them. They're gone. They're already thinking about something else. If you're talking more than like 2 minutes, pretty much, they're gone.
So here's something interesting. Like, I don't know if this is a characteristic of a 3 or if this is just a Sally thing, but as concise as I try to be, I can be very long-winded. And I definitely think Tim is a 7 because I can see it. Like when it's going too much, he'll like do one of these. Like, I don't need to know like what you had for breakfast and what you thought about it and how it smelled and tasted and what it looked like. Like, just get to the point.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's quite a few personalities. The 3, 7s, and 8s are always wanting to, we have to work to not interrupt people as much as we want to.
Oh my God.
But also give them the dignity of being who they are too, But, yeah.
Diane, I just want to tell you how wonderful this was.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really loved it.
Thank you.
I agree.
We should hashtag this best lunch and learn ever.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad it was recorded because now you can share it.
This session, you really could go a lot of different directions. So it's really good.
Yeah. So we'll figure out, like, send me private messages or whatnot too, just with what else you want to talk about, because we can definitely bring it into networking. It's just you can't guess people's personality. Like obviously Sally and I, we know our husbands. I knew my husband's number right away too, and I didn't need him to take a test, because you just know your spouse. But you should let them just to, give them the dignity of figuring out their number, because that's the thing. You don't want to guess.
So I've been in a group that we talked about the Enneagram. We studied it. We read those 2 books and discussed it, and even used the 3rd book that you had that in that group. And but because it was to to get along with other people that you work with or maybe you network with, and trying to talk about those kind of things. And we even talked about, one of our discussions is like, if you go on a trip with a certain Enneagram number and what to expect. And like, I mean, it was just more of a fun thing. Like, okay, if you got, if you got a 2, you got all the snacks, you got, you know what I mean? Because they're taking care of everybody. So it was really fun to do that.
That is
What's also-
fun. So Tim and I just went on vacation, and there were 12 of us all together that went. It would have been really interesting to know that ahead of time. And then but it would be interesting to know it now and go back and look at different parts of the vacation. Although it was like an awesome group and we're like, oh, we could totally vacation together all the time. There were definitely breakouts of groups of 4 that kind of stuck together. And it's probably because of different traits and personality things that draw us together.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely going to be attracted to different kinds of numbers. Like, I love it when I'm around people like 3, 7s, and 8 specifically, because I know I don't have to be fluffy. I just get right to the point and I ask them exactly what I want from them. And they appreciate it. So, yeah.
Oh,
but
it's
we
wonderful.
appreciate all the numbers too. What was that, Pete?
No, I appreciate that. It's absolutely wonderful when people are direct and to the point for me. One of my little things that I do every single morning, just because like you said, Diane, we have to remind ourselves we have feelings, and every single morning I do a little mantra: be kind, gracious, grateful, and thankful. Be kind, gracious, grateful, and thankful. Because sometimes I don't remember to do those things. It's not that I intentionally want to not do those things. It's just I have to remember to be present in kindness and in graciousness and be thankful for everything that people bring. And it's to the point where it's not as difficult as it was 20 years ago for me when I was back in my 30s, but it's still something that I do every single day, is to remind myself, you got to be present in the kindness. You have to be present in being thankful and grateful for everything that all people bring. So
but also knowing the filter too that you have to put on. Like, if I'm talking to my mother-in-law who's a 2, I have to remember I have to put on a feelings filter that's foreign to me. It's like speaking Greek, but I try to be more touchy-feely and all that emotional crap that literally I try to avoid with every fiber in my being. But loving on other people, I have to remember, okay, this is how they think. Allow yourself. It's not crap. Have some feelings, and literally talk myself through that. So I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Diane, one of the things that I think is important when people study the Enneagram is because not only when you learn what your number is and then know your wings, so you kind of got to know those numbers next to you pretty well, so you can understand certain things better, and then the numbers you go to on stress and security. So you basically are a mix of 5. So knowing those, you kind of helps you understand when you're thinking a certain way, it's like sometimes I realize that I'm stressed because I'm writing things on a list and crossing them off that I've already done, just because, that's, that 3 coming out in me and stuff like that. So
well, I can talk about that too the next time, because the chart I made, I read like 4 or 5 books and I put it all into a chart because I was sick of looking in different places. It's a waste of time. And so anyways, if you know, like what Christina's talking about is, okay, so like for example, Pete, we'll use your wife as an example here. If she is a 1, all right,
I'm fairly certain.
well, you tell me. In stress, she goes to 4. She turns anger inward. She loses trust in herself. She feels unloved, and she longs for what she doesn't have.
Oh, very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Insecurity, 1s go to 7. So that's fun. Okay. Because they're normally that, detailed perfectionist, becoming the enthusiast. Okay. They're less self-critical. They're more enthusiastic and optimistic and very spontaneous. So you can tell then, once you know this, and we can go through these on the next call, then Christine, I think that'd be a great idea, because then you can know also your wife, if she wings to 9, Peter, 1s that wing 9 are cooler, more relaxed, objective, and detached, where 1s who wing 2 are more warmer, more helpful, critical, and controlling. So then you can kind of figure out, okay, which way do I wing more? And then you know that whole wing thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So any other questions?
Folks, I gotta go. It's
Yeah.
been fun. Peter, I would
Great.
have never pegged you as an 8. Holly, thank you for the feedback. And I know I talk too much, so don't worry. It wasn't the first time I've heard that. So
Every
bye.
day, Holly. That's my life. Every day.
But Frank, you are loved. You know, everyone in the chamber loves you. You know that.
And Diane, thank you for doing this. We've been talking about this for, oh boy, at least 6 months, and you finally got it on the calendar and did it. It was awesome. Glad you finally got around to getting it on the calendar and getting it done. It was fun. Wish more people would have been here.
Yeah, well, it's recorded too. I had some people say they wanted the recording, so.
Cool. Bye, all.
All right.
Bye.
Hi, Frank. So was somebody else saying something else? Anybody else want to know anything from this? Like Ellen, do you know what number you are?
Yes. I'm not gonna say. I'm not too happy with it.
You know what? That's how you realize you are that number, is when you're not happy with it. Literally, I cried when I found out I was an 8. I'm like, no wonder everyone thinks I'm such a biatch. Literally.
Really?
Like,
You cried?
Oh, I
Oh my
cried
gosh,
too.
yes.
I cried too, Peter.
Yes. It was
Really?
very short, Pete, but it wasn't. Oh, and that's the thing. What's interesting, because
I just looked at this and I just went, yeah, that's me.
it was more that I felt understood. I'm like, there's more people like me out there, because women 8s are so rare. I don't feel like there's many people like me at all. And so like when I met Holly, we had an instant connection through the scramble and like immediately got together the next week. It was instant connection. And so it's very rare to find other people that are like you.
Well, see, and that's interesting because I had, I really enjoyed talking with Diane. Holly and I got to talk just yesterday, was it? Yeah. And unfortunately, I blew right past when we were scheduled to talk because I got wrapped up in something else, which is very rare for me to do. But I really still very much enjoyed the conversation with Holly. It was a very good conversation insofar as exchanging information and understanding where she's at. It felt like an effective conversation. Yep. And I enjoy those type of things. I really, truly do.
Well, one thing that I learned is my husband's a 5, and it does explain a lot. Yeah.
They can only take so much emotion.
Yeah.
I've got so many stories on each number. I could talk about this, like I said, forever.
Wow.
Anyway, so any other questions or comments?
No, looking forward to the next one.
I'm looking forward. You got like me intrigued. Now I want to figure out what number you are there, Ellen.
Ellen, I want to know too. I have to, we're together a lot. I want to know so I can, I know how to talk to you and I know how to understand you better.
Got to keep you guessing, girls.
I think I have an idea, only because the conversations I have with Ellen are also, in general, very succinct, direct, and to the point, which I absolutely love. And so I have a feeling. I'm not gonna say what I think.
Well, I'm not sure because I did an online test.
Did you?
Yeah, and so I'm gonna go back and do Diane's test. And she had said that that the test that you do in other places may not be correct. So I did something called TRUITY.com. Did you ever?
I've heard of Truity. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's definitely different ones out there. It's just you, like I said, a lot of them are wrong. And so it's more through experience and talking about it that you'll realize not everybody knows what they are when they first hear. I've had to help a lot of people. It took me like almost 18 months to help one of my friends figure out what she was.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back and go through the different things Diane gave us. So I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can learn about it. You'll read about it. And this book is fantastic. The Road Back to You is fantastic to read the different stories and to learn more. And you're like, that is totally me. So
I know. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Right. See you later.
Okay, sure.
Bye. Thanks, Diane.
Sure, of course. Anytime, you know that.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
All right. Let's stop recording.